Hello there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonia Maya. Today I want to talk about why people get into toxic relationships and why it's so hard to get out of them. And first off, let me just show off something to you guys. I got my nails done today, first off. Look at these. They're so freaking cool. And it's been a really long time since I had my nails done, so I just wanted to show that off for a moment, even though that's not what this is about at all. But these are actually my nails with like gel polish on top, and they never grow out this long, but I haven't been able to bartend due to quarantine, so actually my nails grow out pretty long. Like I used to get them fake to look like this, but these are actually my nails. And I wanted to show off this mask real quick.
Wearing a mask is sexy. Wearing a mask is hot.
Hope you guys are all wearing a mask. But when I went to the salon, everyone was wearing this. So I was like, I gotta get one. It's from this place called Vamp Boutique near my salon, and it is so cute. Okay, all right, let me stop. So this is serious educational content. I just had to show that off because I don't have a lot of people to show it off to. But we all know that relationships can have a big impact on our lives, right? When somebody goes through a breakup, it could be really, really, really miserable. The fear of losing someone or actually losing someone can be really miserable. And I've also talked about this in my other videos, but the reason why breakups are so painful is because when you are with somebody that you're attracted to and you have feelings for, there is dopamine that gets released. So there's a lot of hormones getting released. It's kind of like an addiction. That's why love is just like so amazing and it just like feels so good. But then what happens when you break up? That dopamine gets cut off. So it's kind of like an addict going into withdrawal. So that can be really painful. I also wanted to mention that I just read this research study. I'll put it below. It also turns out that the failure or success of relationships can have a huge impact on our self-esteem, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of the time when somebody goes through a breakup, they start questioning their worth. Am I worthy? Am I worthy of love? It like puts us through this terrible experience, not for everybody, for a lot of people. So a lot of people are more affected by a breakup in terms of their self-esteem than others. But some people, it can really take a toll on their self-esteem, especially people that have been betrayed, like someone that was cheated on, they might start blaming themselves. So I thought that was interesting to point out as well. And I also wanted to point out that being in a toxic relationship for a long time, that can also reinforce this terrible, terrible, irrational core belief that you are not enough. Because a lot of the time when someone's in a toxic relationship, they are with somebody that's bringing out the best of them, and they still often stay in the relationship for reasons that I'm going to talk about in this video. But I just want people to know, like, if you've been through that, there's nothing wrong with you, and it's very common. So I wanted to normalize that for you. And wow, I'm going to be talking with my hands a lot because I got to show off my new nails. All right, stop, Sonia. Stop obsessing over them. They're like abstract art, like this. So I know many people that have been and still are in very toxic relationships. I can kind of tell from like a mile away, but the person that's actually in the relationship, they might actually not know that it's bad for them until later, and then they look back and they're like, why was I in that for so long? Or on the other hand, they might already kind of have an idea that this isn't someone that they should be with, but they might still feel like they should stay with that person due to certain circumstances, such as the time they invested.
How many times did you try to leave the relationship before you actually made your clean break? I tried to leave countless times.
So hopefully this video can help people steer clear of toxic relationships by understanding the difference between a healthy and an unhealthy relationship. So first I'm going to break down what a healthy relationship looks like, and then I'm going to break down what a toxic relationship looks like. So hopefully if you've been in that situation, or if you're trying to avoid that situation in the future, this will help you with that. A lot of the time we accept what's given to us. We feel like, okay, this is fine. I'm just going to accept the fact that he's treating me like crap, because we have this fear of being alone. There is this huge expectation in society to be with somebody. Like society puts so much pressure on people to be in a relationship. So you think like, okay, so if I don't have somebody, then I'm not enough, and like this isn't good enough, so they might stay with the wrong person.
Oh my god, you're single? You're too cute to be single. You're too cute to be single. I fucking know.
Therefore settling for less and actually minimalizing certain behaviors that are not acceptable at all.
We're in love. I mean, you have to see it from my side too. I think you're ready.
No, JR, I'm not ready.
Listen, you're ready, okay?
So what is a healthy relationship? This is somebody that fulfills your needs and enriches your life in a healthy way. This is not somebody that clings onto you or acts super needy.
Spending all of your time with JR. I know, he just really doesn't like it when I hang out with my friends anymore. He only wants me to hang out with him. That's really not okay. That doesn't seem healthy.
Sometimes people feel this fear of being alone, so they cling on to others. This is very common with people that have an anxious avoidant attachment, which I've talked about in this video. So you can go check that out for a review on attachment style if you would like. It's like they feel like they need to be with somebody because they're not complete, because long story short, a lot of the time they didn't get those needs met when they were younger or from other relationships in their life.
The only bright spot to going through this relationship is that I have so much more understanding and connection with people who have been through something similar. Anybody who's been through a toxic relationship where there really is nothing in it for them other than pride and a desperate need to fill a void that person can never fill.
In a healthy relationship, you should be able to easily communicate your boundaries with your partner. For example, like if somebody needs some alone time and that's just something that they need, like a lot of people that are like a little bit introverted, you need to be able to communicate that with your partner without there being an issue there. You should feel like there's a comfortable communication in general. You have to express it in a healthy manner that's respectable. Another example of expressing boundaries would be being able to have strong relationships or friendships with others without your intimate partner being jealous. And for example, I believe is a really healthy relationship if you're able to have a really long conversation on the phone with somebody who's of the same sex that you're attracted to. Like let's say you're a woman, a heterosexual woman, for example, in a heterosexual relationship, and you should be able to have friendships with men without your man getting jealous. If you guys have a communication and a solid foundation and you trust one another, there shouldn't be an issue. A lot of the time in toxic and unhealthy relationships, the other partner might like get really needy or jealous, insecure. These are not good traits to have. And if this is something that you're experiencing, you got to work it out with your partner, because if there really isn't anything going on and there's no reason they should feel betrayed, then they should know that, and there should be that clear communication.
You can trust me.
You can trust me back.
Expectations and wishes should be clearly communicated, and this shouldn't be an issue. And if you've watched my other videos, then you know that talking about those expectations and talking about your preferences in general is not only healthy in a relationship, but also healthy in the bedroom, especially for those that, you know, they want a certain kind of pleasure. They got to communicate that, and their partner should be open to hearing that communication rather than just pretending that they know it all, because they don't. Should also be emotions shared together, such as sharing laughter and tears, watching a comedy show together and enjoying it. If you're in a healthy relationship, then you should be looking forward to the experience of coming home from work to your partner. There has to be like that feeling of excitement to spend time with that person. That's healthy. Another healthy aspect is being able to problem solve and being able to listen and have empathy to another person's side of an argument. How you argue, it plays a big role. And a lot of the time when emotions get involved in a argument or just like any kind of disagreement between two people, especially if it's like a long-term relationship, like among married individuals, it could be really hard to listen to the other person's side because of all the emotions. That's why couples therapy is so helpful, because that third party there really helps kind of make each person listen to each other. And the whole goal of therapy is to help those two people communicate in a healthy manner outside of the therapy. So the work is really done outside of the therapy room, but the couples therapy kind of helps everything come together and organizes what we're gonna do, while also making sure that each person listens to one another. So highly recommend it. And that's also kind of like, you know, that's my future for the most part too, because I only have 2 years left of my doctorate, and then I'm gonna have a private practice with individual therapy and with couples therapy as well. So wish me luck, because I've heard that couples therapy can be quite difficult, but I can take it. That's some example of healthy relationship signs, but what about toxic relationships? So there's so many of them. One I want to talk about is love bombing. So this is something that's kind of like an early sign of a toxic relationship. Like let's say you get involved with somebody and they're constantly flooding you with compliments, and they just like, they make you feel like you're on the top of the world, but it's like a little bit too soon. These people might actually say that they love you like within like the first 3 weeks of meeting you, just kind of fast. They're pretty much doing this, maybe not even consciously, but they're trying to make it so you feel like you can rely on them and that you have to rely on them. And because they're giving you all this attention, it's kind of like this addicting feeling. Sometimes people will love bomb and then disappear because they kind of just like want something out of you, like a lot of the time it's a man love bombing a woman, they have sex and then he becomes distant, that kind of thing. I've heard about that happening a whole lot, but this could also happen in a relationship, make someone feel like they need to depend on them. So that is a sign of unhealthy relationship from the start. Opposite of somebody's very critical and judgmental. A lot of the time this can be like someone who's super opinionated, and a lot of people are just like opinionated by nature, but a lot of the time, like if somebody's really opinionated, they're really judgmental. Another sign of a toxic relationship is someone that gets very irritable and uses anger. In general, if somebody's taking their anger out on you and it gets to a physically abusive point, at that point you really do need to make sure that you're safe. I worked as a counselor for victims of domestic violence, and a lot of the time people realized that they were actually being abused for a long time and didn't even realize that it was abuse until it was too late. So if you are feeling at all like your partner is someone that you don't feel safe around, then you need to automatically make sure that you're safe. And there are certain things that you can do to make sure that you're safe, such as getting a PFA against somebody, which is a protection from abuse. So that's a whole other discussion, but the physical abuse thing, that can be really dangerous. And if you are dating somebody that's irritable and very easily angered, then just keep in mind that you need to be safe. And if you are feeling unsafe, reach out for help. You're not alone. It happens very often. It's a slippery slope. Sometimes people seem like really sweet at first and then they show their true colors. Just do your best to make sure that you don't put yourself in a really terrible situation. Another sign of a toxic relationship is if they ignore you when you speak. Like they don't really, sometimes like you're talking and then they just don't even listen. This is actually a sign of emotional abuse, and it's possible that people don't do it consciously, and it could just be like an issue, like maybe it happened to them when they were younger, or they didn't have their needs met when they were younger, and then they start just being like emotionally abusive. And that's not healthy, because you want to be with somebody that is going to validate your feelings and be able to be there for you and meet your needs, like I talked about with the healthy relationship signs, and that is just not a good sign. Another sign of a toxic relationship is somebody that says if-then statements, like if you cared about me, then this. Like if you cared about me, then you wouldn't go out with your girlfriends. That kind of thing is very toxic because it's very controlling, and it's like, it's accusatory too. It's like, oh, you don't care about me and my feelings and blah, blah, blah. Like it shouldn't be like that at all. There shouldn't be any kind of constraints, like you feel like you're in a prison in your relationship. Another thing is if they take more than they give. It needs to be reciprocal, and I talk about reciprocity in the bedroom, but this is the case in general, just in terms of like meeting each other's needs. You want to be with somebody that is willing to give it just as much as you give, and you should also feel really excited to see them, like I said before. But if you're feeling like anxious about seeing your partner, then there might be something wrong there as well. And if they're like shooting down your self-esteem, then you should really reflect on that too. Like you don't want to be around somebody that is going to bring you down. You should be with somebody that makes you feel like the best version of yourself. I mean, you should feel like the best version of yourself, but you don't want to be with someone that makes you feel differently about that, because then you're better off alone, even though a lot of people fear being alone, which is a big problem, which is why people get so stuck in these relationships for so long. Somebody that's super controlling is very toxic. So somebody that wants to always monitor your texts, needs to know where you are at all times, who is that you're hanging out with, what are all the names of everybody that you're hanging out with, and that's just not healthy at all. And if you feel like you can't live a free life and hang out with friends because of your spouse, then that's an issue. And if there is some kind of trust issue because there was a betrayal between the two of you, then you guys really need to talk about your boundaries again and renew your monogamy, and just really figure out how are we going to make this relationship work in a way that you can trust me, because that is not going to end well. And if this is somebody that you've been with long term, like let's say this is your spouse, I highly recommend that you seek professional help, maybe get couples therapy, because it's really hard to fix these kinds of really toxic traits without a third party. And a lot of the time when you are in it for so long, it's really hard to recognize. So hopefully this gives you some clarity if you are in this situation. And just know that if you're going to stay with this person, things need to change, because they're only going to get worse if they don't get treated. And a lot of people realize too that you shouldn't just see one therapist and it's like, oh, this didn't work for me, and then just give up. A lot of the time it takes a while to find the right therapist. Get referrals from somebody that has a good reputation, and if you're gonna make it work, then make it work and stay. Just know that like abuse comes in physical and in emotional, but if there's any kind of hint of physical abuse, You need to get out and get help. There's nothing that you could have done that made that your fault. It's not your fault. So if this is something that you can relate to, I really hope that you set yourself free, or at least work things out if it is something that can be fixed. And I really hope this was informative for anybody that doesn't want to get in a toxic relationship, wants to know what a healthy relationship looks like, or maybe somebody that's currently in a toxic relationship and needs help or needs to go. And just remember, safety is the most important. I really hope that you learned a lot. I do post on YouTube on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesdays is psychology facts about sex and relationship. Saturdays is fitness inspiration. Thank you so much. I also have a Patreon page where I post exclusive content every other day for my patrons only. So this is the link to it right here. And I'm going to take a quick moment to say a special thank you to the patrons on my Patreon, and I'm gonna put their names right up here. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.